Hey guys, so I wanted to talk a little bit about have you ever had a time in your life where you had a really big goal, like a huge goal that was just like monumental? It felt like it was so huge and it felt like a mountain. Like, how were you ever going to get to that goal? Whatever it is, could be in a job, or it could be in family, or maybe a new house, a new place, or just trying to move somewhere, or just something like that. Like a particular goal could be anything, right? Sometimes some goals in life, though, certain goals at different times can seem very insurmountable and can feel like, oh my God, you're never going to get there. It can feel very overwhelming, right? Even like, let's say if you go back to school and you decide you want to add to your degree, you want to go for your bachelor's or whatever, doctorate or whatever, and at the beginning of that goal, it feels very overwhelming, doesn't it? It feels like, oh my God, like it's going to seem like it's going to take you forever to get there, or you're not sure if you're going to ever see it. Okay? If you ever had a time like that, or you ever experienced anything like that, first of all, I understand, because I have been there like so many times. So many times in my life, I feel like I had a goal and it felt like super huge. So it's kind of like, what do you do? One of the things that I learned back in the day, back in my 20s, when I did Mary Kay, which I still love that company to this day, good products and everything, but I learned a lot from that company, specifically in goal setting. I remember how they really taught us to break things down, to take any goal that you have and to break it down into small, tiny, bite-sized goals. Even, let's say, savings. Let's say if you're trying to save a certain amount of money, which I know that, that depends on the job you have and everything like that, right? But let's just say you get a certain amount of money every month or whatever, how much, and you feel like you should be saving, or you feel like you could be saving, right? And then you decide you want to save, whatever, $5,000, $10,000, whatever, right? But you break that down, okay, very small. It's kind of like, have you ever heard the saying, how to eat an elephant? Like, you got to eat an elephant. And what do they say? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? It's one bite at a time. In fact, I'm gonna look that up, because I typed that in and I want to see what AI says about it. Okay, it says, look, I just typed it in because I love doing that. It says, the saying, how do you eat an elephant? It is a metaphor for tackling a large, overwhelming task by breaking it down into smaller, manageable steps. This concept is applicable to many challenging situations in life and business. However, it is important to understand that in the literal sense, eating an elephant is not advisable and largely considered unethical and harmful. Okay. Anyway, okay, so basically one bite at a time, right? Okay, and that's what that means. And breaking it down. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna take, for example, for me, like moving. Okay, I didn't have a whole lot of stuff I had to move, but it was kind of a lot, and I needed to do it kind of by myself, in the sense that both of my boys are not close by. And so I started about 2 months, about 2 months or so in advance, and I started taking small trips, very, very, very small trips to my storage unit, right? And just taking stuff over a little bit at a time, to where it wasn't so overwhelming where I had to do everything in one day, and I wasn't super tired. Well, I still was tired because it's still a lot for me anyway in the heat. But and so what felt overwhelming in the beginning, you know, I took that goal and I broke it down into little and made it and spread it out over time. And that's one of the things that I really learned in Mary Kay the most. Like, this is one thing that I really learned in Mary Kay to do, right? And I have applied this lesson so much in my life at different times. Even bills. Even when I've had big bills that I was like, oh my God, I don't know how, like whatever, I've applied it to that too. Okay, so for example, let's say you have the goal of becoming an occupational therapist. Okay, that's a great goal, and that makes a lot of money, right? But it takes a lot of schooling. A lot of schooling. There's different levels to that as well, right? One of the things that you'll need to do is to write your goal down. Well, first of all, one of the first things to do is make a decision. You have to make a decision and be firm in your decision, whatever that is. Okay? Whatever your decision is that you decide for yourself that you feel is the right thing for you. Okay, and you may not always everybody may not always agree with you, right? Everybody, you know, one thing for sure about goals or certain things when you make a decision about yourself, 9 times out of 10, everybody is not going to be down for you. Everybody is not going to be in agreement. And so being a people pleaser is going to literally hold you back. Because if you make decisions for everybody else, you won't be going far, okay? Because you'll be stretching yourself so thin doing everything for everybody else, you'll never get to wherever it is that you really want to go. Okay, so that's for another whole topic though. But besides the point, you make your own decision, you make a decision, and you get firm in your decision about what you want to do. So for example, like I said, becoming an occupational therapist or something. Okay. And then after you do that, you write it down, and of course you do research. You're going to go through a research phase of what is it going to actually take to become an actual therapist or an occupational therapist. Like, what is it going to take? You know, maybe looking into it, maybe even shadowing somebody or whatever, you know, just all the research or whatever. And when you see how much time it's going to take, how much schooling it's going to take, you might decide, you know what, instead of being an occupational therapist, I'll be an occupational therapist assistant. Okay? And being an assistant takes a lot less. It's a lot less schooling, and I can get on the job quicker, and I can make pretty decent pay, right? So you may have to adjust your goal a little bit, right? But nonetheless, you made your decision, and you're now even more confident in your decision, right? So after that, after doing your research, and you go through your research phase, you know, the next thing is, okay, now, you know, I need to go ahead and apply it to different schools or go ahead and sign up for different courses. Now, what happens when some of these courses now interfere with, let's say, the job you currently have? Okay, so let's say the job that you currently have is, you know, at night, and these courses are only given at night. What are you going to do? You know, you have to make your decision, and you have to be firm in your own decision that this is the path you want to take. And so what happens? You may have to actually let go of your nighttime job so that you can now take those courses that you want to take that's going to get you to your end goal, right? Okay, so that you can now go to those courses. So you might have to switch up and get a day job, right? And likely that's the case. And what's going to happen when you go to your job and you turn in your letter of resignation, or you turn in your notice and tell them you're done, you quit? What are they going to do? You're going to have all these managers or people, whoever, going to be like, why are you quitting? Why are you leaving us? You know, we need this, we need that. We need you. You're the best. Blah, 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 blah. We can't live life. We can't live this job. We can't do this job without you. And you're going to have all these people who are going to probably not necessarily want to support your goal. You know, because whatever you're doing right now is not supporting their goal. Okay? And that's understandable. Literally, it's understandable. This is where your discernment comes in, and you have to kind of like think to yourself, like, let me look at it from their point of view. From their point of view, they still work at this old job where I was at, and losing me is going to change and add more to their workload until they find a replacement, yada, 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 yada. And again, if you are firm in your own decision about where you want to be or what your goal is, you will understand from their point of view, you get it, and you'll understand that's just a sacrifice that's going to have to be made. A lot of times when you make certain decisions, certain goals, or certain things, whatever, a lot of times there's going to be some people that are happy and some people that are not. Okay? And when you go in knowing that you can't make everybody happy and everybody's not going to be happy for you, when you go in knowing that, right, and it kind of even expecting that, or even being able to look at it from their perspective, okay, and even understanding them, saying that, like, I understand that's going to be an adjustment for you guys. I have a little saying, well, I didn't come up with it, but I heard it once, and it goes like, hey, it's been real, it's been fun, it's been real fun, deuces, right? Okay, you hear people say that, right? Okay, so it's like, yeah, love y'all, but I gotta go, right? Because you made your own decision, and once you've broken down what it's going to take to get to that goal, that end goal, you know that the path looks like this. I have to go to school for 2 years at night, right? I'll have to get a different job to support this money, whatever. And then once I get this job, I'll be able to afford whatever, XYZ, and then I can move and live over here or whatever, right? So you have this path or this goal over here that looks huge, but you've broken it down into this small, manageable pathway, right? And you have to just understand and just be okay with some people are just probably not going to be happy. You can't make everybody happy, but the goal is to I don't say make yourself happy, like coming off selfish, but the goal is that you have an end goal in mind, that you have something in mind that you're trying to get to, right? And that goes for that's how you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So it may start out with, okay, I first got to take that plunge and go ahead and sign up for that class. Once I get accepted into the class, which, by the way, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and all that kind of stuff is not easy to get into. It's a capped industry. If you don't know, it's a capped industry, which means they only allow so many people every single year to actually go in and apply for or even be accepted into the course, because they want to keep the industry a high demand. Okay, I looked into it, so consider yourself very fortunate if you can get in, okay? Either one. But anyway, once you do that, then you go in and you say, okay, now I'm going to have to put in, I'm going to have to quit this job. But before I do that, I need to go ahead and get another job, right? A day job or whatever. But then there's going to come that moment where you'll have to go ahead and probably let your boss know or whatever. Some places, some jobs, it's like, who cares? It's no big deal. But I'm talking about if you have somebody who you know in particular, for sure, they're not going to like your decision. And that is what it is, And then let's just say, for example, maybe there's a job that you want to do that your current partner, boyfriend, family, whatever, they don't like it. They're not in agreement with it. They think you're crazy or whatever, and they don't want you to do it. Okay? What do you do then? Well, again, if it is part of your long-term goal, and if it's something that you see yourself as, or you really want to do, you're, you really love this, maybe it's a part of, like who you are, like makeup or whatever, then what happens is that if you decide to try to make other people happy, right? If you decide that that's what you're trying to do, okay, you will try to shove and stuff your true desires down, okay, and you will try to just live life to make that other person happy, okay? And I can promise you, there is literally nobody that I've ever met who ever said they're so happy they did that. There is nobody I've ever met or heard, you've never seen it, where at the end, of whatever, 5 years, 10 years, ends their life or whatever, of anybody who ever did that, whoever said, yes, I'm so happy that I did not pursue my gift. I am so happy that I did not pursue, whatever, that dream job, or that place I wanted to live, or the love of my life, or XYZ, whatever, singing or whatever it is, right? You just don't hear it. You just never hear that. Because why? It was either a lifelong torturous type of situation that you felt because you were shoving your gifts down, or you were shoving what you wanted to do down to please everybody else or whatever. And all you did was have regret. And that's the way it felt. Is regret. And the thing about that is for me personally, I would much rather try and fail than have regret. For me, that's just the way I roll. I have learned that also in Mary Kay. There was a saying, it is better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And maybe not for everything, but for a lot of things, for certain, when it comes, I know for me personally, because I can tend to be very passionate about certain things, and I have tried and failed quite a bit. And guess what? I don't care. It's made me stronger. It's literally made me stronger. And I am fine with that. I feel like great. I feel like, yep, I checked that off my list. I tried. I wasn't good at it. I was good at it or whatever. It didn't work. But I'd rather have done that than to have failed. I'd rather have done that and failed than to have regret, is what I'm trying to say. Because having regret is that little voice in the back of your head that reminds you every single day that you were supposed to be baking cakes and being a cake decorator. Or you were supposed to be a mom, for example, if you never had kids and you wanted kids or something like that. Or if you, whatever, the person that you really wanted to marry and you decided not to marry them because your family didn't want you to marry that person, whatever, and you married that person that your mother wanted you to marry, like in the movie The Notebook or whatever, right? And that if you do that over there, you'll make everybody else happy, but in the end, you're going to have to be living with that feeling and that nagging, sinking feeling in your gut that you're sleeping next to the wrong person. And your mother is not even there, right? If you remember that movie. And some people are like myself who are like, you know what? We have a little bit maybe more passion, fire burning to ourselves, whatever, that we are just a little bit more like, gotta go, I'm not trying to make you happy. And I think I learned that lesson many years ago. And there's only so many people you can make happy, right? You got to figure out your one or two people, whoever, that you can actually make happy and go for it, right? Because you can't make everybody happy. You can only, and if you're not happy, you definitely can't make anybody happy, and so I remember even feeling that way, even when it came to marrying my late husband, because he did pull me away twice from somebody else, because we broke up twice before we got married. We dated for 4 years, and we broke up twice, and both times, I don't know what these men be thinking when you have somebody who is halfway attractive or whatever. You want to sleep on that person, you want to break up. And if you think somebody like me who's not, I'm going to be, obviously, I'm attractive to other people too. So both times, we broke up, somebody else was trying to scoop me up, and he had to come back in and stake his territory, right? But both times, for me personally, I remember when I started dating somebody else or whatever, and it came back to, should I get back with Travis or not? I remember thinking, am I going to have that nagging feeling? Am I going to be wondering about Travis? Am I going to be thinking about him? Am I going to be able to shut down those thoughts? My concerns of him? And am I going to be okay with seeing him with somebody else? Because obviously if I go stay with this person over here, at some point he's going to be with somebody else too. And I had to be okay with that. But it was that nagging thought, right? And I knew both times when I couldn't answer honestly, that I was okay with moving on and letting him go and not thinking about him anymore. I knew that there was more there to that. I needed to you know, go back. Like that it wasn't done, you know, and that I didn't want to have that nagging feeling. Just like in the movie, The Notebook, right? She knew when she was trying to get married and she saw the back of the newspaper. She saw, what's his name? What's his name? No, I forget his name. Anyway, when she saw him and she was like, and she freaked out because she knew why she had all that inner turmoil was because she knew deep down inside, if she asked herself that one question, am I going to be okay with never finishing that story over there? That person over there, like, you know, if she answered that one question and the answer was no, which would have been no, and if she was honest about it, without having to please her mom, without trying to please everybody else or whatever, then she, you know, if she couldn't answer no, then she knew she couldn't stay with that person because it wasn't going to work out. And I remember feeling that way also when I was actually in Mary Kay. And I loved Mary Kay because, again, it was entrepreneurship, you know, it was independent. I was independent. And I moved up in, you know, the different ranks in the company, and I learned how to break down these goals. You know, we would have, let's say we had a $10,000 production goal, and we would break it down like with the team members. If everybody did such and such amount with what I did, how many parties we would have to do, and what we needed to do in production every week, and then what we needed to do every day, right? Or however many working days, okay, to hit our sales goal. But when at some point in Mary Kay, because I joined Mary Kay because obviously I've always loved the beauty industry and I always wanted to do makeup. I wanted to be a makeup artist. You know, I was always playing in makeup, doing people's faces and stuff. As I started booking people though, like when I was in Mary Kay, people would book me to do their weddings all the time. And I started kind of, people were always calling me the Mary Kay lady. And I noticed that I would get challenged sometimes while doing these appointments for people, right? They were actual bookings or whatever. I would get challenged sometimes by certain people who might have showed up to the wedding who they can themselves consider themselves a makeup artist. For whatever reason, that's what they were. They were not a Mary Kay lady. They didn't just sell products. They, you know, were a makeup artist, whatever. And so their artistry skills was, to them, superior to mine. Now, I had always looked at myself as a makeup artist, but I just sold Mary Kay because it was a way to make some money. You know, like it was a good opportunity. But it kept chipping away at me every time that happened. Because there were products and things that I would use that was not Mary Kay, that were catered to the makeup artistry world, and I would use them when I was doing outside events and stuff, right? But sometimes people were only looking at me as the Mary Kay lady who came over to help with makeup, right? And it kept chipping away at me, and I knew, after 8 years of being in Mary Kay, I knew that there was no goal in Mary Kay that was going to take away the feeling inside of me that I knew I wanted to be a makeup artist when I was 3 years old. I can remember being at 3 years old. I can remember coloring faces, and I can remember looking at people and thinking I wanted to do makeup. I wanted to put lipstick on people. I knew I wanted to do that. I didn't know there was anything called a makeup artist. I just knew I wanted to do that. I wanted to beautify people. So this was something that was in me for a very long time, but it's more or less, it was more or less visual effects, like visual arts and stuff like that. But for me, I knew I identified on the inside of me as a makeup artist. Okay. And so I knew if I didn't leave Mary Kay, I didn't care how much money I really made in Mary Kay. I didn't care about what goal. At one point I kind of got bored, but it was more or less also, there's a lot of things going on at that time in my life too. But it was like, how much time do you want to spend now here? You've already kind of maxed out what you wanted to do. But you have not hit your goals over here. And people are only seeing you like this or whatever, and you know you are really like a makeup artist. Like you always had XYZ dreams, goals, whatever. I wanted to do movies, short films, whatever, music videos. And I actually systematically hit every single thing on my list that I wanted to do. Now, at one point I wanted to be in the union. And then when it came time where I could have really pursued being in the union, I was already old enough to the point where I was like, you know what, the union life for makeup artists is not for me, because waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that, you know, yeah, I'm a Krabby Patty. I need my sleep, and I'm kind of set in my ways when it comes to that. Like, don't bother me, and don't be waking me up. I don't like living on little sleep. I can do a little bit here and there, you know, when life calls for it, like having a new baby or whatever, right? But having to go on set all the time, call time, nope. I decided no, not the life for me. I can't do it. And then after I hit a few of my goals, and even like when I did some like movies, short films and stuff like that, I realized that also I wasn't crazy about movie sets either, because it was a little boring, monotonous for me, because it was, you know, it wasn't changing enough, you know. And so after I hit a couple of my goals, and I realized, like, okay, that's not my niche. That's not my niche either. I don't like that either. I realized that I really did like the interaction of the one-on-one. And I really loved, you know, I do still love weddings, and I do still do them or whatever, but I really love the interaction of the one-on-one, you know, and working with the clients and having different faces. I actually enjoy that. Because I like, as long as I like the person. Now, if I don't like the person, then forget it, right? But anyway, and I realized that really was my zone, right? And so, but I knew that I couldn't stay in Mary Kay and just sell products, because in Mary Kay, they say you teach, don't touch. We teach. And I knew that wasn't my lane. I wanted to touch. I wanted to actually do makeup, right? So I knew I was not going to be able to forgive myself if I didn't pursue harder doing just artistry, makeup artist skills, and actually being more street savvy with makeup, okay? Anyway, and so there are certain things in life, I think, at certain times where it's like you have to have that moment with yourself that's like, okay, how long am I going to endure this, whatever situation where I know I'm not being true to myself or my gut, or what I really need to do, or whatever, right? How long am I going to do this? Right? And again, sometimes, like I say, you know, it might involve telling some people, like, okay, I'm no longer doing Mary Kay. I'm no longer going to be your sales director. And that was a little bit sad, you know? It was sad. It was actually very sad, you know, because it's like, you know, change is coming, and you're not going to have that same interaction and that same rapport or that same relationship or whatever with these people, or you might be moving or whatever, yada, yada, right? And again, some people might be happy, might be sad, but you know you are heading in a direction that's going to make you happy. Okay? And so you can check that little thing off your list, which is the very first thing might be like, first of all, make that decision. Second of all is, you know, resign from your job or whatever, right? Even I've had to, there were times, you know, that it's like, okay, you can't stay in this particular relationship because you and that person are not, you know, on the same page when it comes to your goals, or when it comes to where you see yourself in your life, right? And it's like, and it's more than that. It's usually, when it comes to relationships, it's usually a lot more than that. Okay? But that part in particular, I know for me, I can't be with, I did figure out 5 or 6 years ago or so that being with a partner that wasn't 100% on board with the things that I wanted to do, and my goals, it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work out, you know. And I kind of always knew that. It's just that I got lucky the first time around and had a partner that was very supportive. So I never experienced this whole non-supportive kind of partner. And when I did, it was like, this ain't going to work. I mean, I can remember feeling overwhelming feelings of tightness and anxiety, and like, oh my God, this is just not going to work. This ain't gonna work. This is not gonna work, because I can't stop doing makeup, or I can't stop doing whatever, XYZ. I'm not gonna stop. It'd be like somebody trying to tell me, you know, we're married now, and all of a sudden it's like, you can't worship Jehovah God. Okay, bye, Felicia. Really? You know, like, it's just, to me, that's just how it is for me. Now, I know there are some people who are different. It takes them, they're people pleasers, right? But I'm not a people pleaser. So, I'm okay with seeing if you gotta cry and you gotta be sad, because you've already proven and shown yourself to me or whatever, like this is not going to work or whatever, like eventually it's like I don't want that. I'm not going to choose that, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Because some things to me in life is just non-negotiable. It's just non-negotiable. Like, I'm not about to sit here and be tortured and put myself down forever. Now, I do think that there are times in life that it does require you to sacrifice, and people in general. Like, let's say when you love somebody dearly, like when I took care of my grandparents, they were elderly, and that was a sacrifice. That was a time that I sacrificed greatly because their health was going down. I loved my grandparents, and people do sacrifice for family in a lot of ways, for sure, especially when, certain things, right? Especially when you see it's necessary. But that type of sacrifice usually brings you joy. There's a certain amount of joy that comes with doing that. For somebody that you love, that loved you, right? Like your grandparents who, they maybe invested a lot of time in you, spent time on you when you were younger, and they loved you, right? And it's like your turn to show your love back. Nobody wants to invest and sacrifice, let's say, with a partner who doesn't do the same back for you. And I don't mean that they can't because of their health, but I mean, even if they got bad health, right? But imagine trying to sacrifice for somebody who, is in bad health, and maybe you're sacrificing being a caretaker for them, but they have a nasty attitude. Like, they might be in the wheelchair being a narcissist. In their wheelchair, they're bossing you around, being nasty, calling you names or whatever, and you got to wipe their butt. That ain't going to work out very long, is it? It's going to be like, you know what? Nah, I can't be listening to your sarcasm or your, abusive words or whatever, and I gotta take care of you, wipe your butt, bathe you, whatever, yada yada. I sacrifice all my time, what I want to do, whatever for you. No, okay, that's not gonna work. Now, when somebody does that for somebody who, you spent years together, you love each other, that person put time into you, and you feel like you want to put that time in, and they're not doing that to you, they're not abusing you during that time, that's different, right? And a lot of times that brings you a sense of fulfillment and joy, because when somebody has been good to you, you naturally want to be good back to them, and a lot of times that means sacrificing. And I'm not talking about that, okay? I'm not talking about that in particular. I'm just talking about, like, different times in life where you have actually made a decision to, let's say, go for something, right? And a lot of people just don't agree with it. They just don't agree with it. And it's like, it's going to be a big goal. Oh, okay? And it's something that you're going to have to do on yourself, on your own, by yourself. You'll have to break that goal down, literally, like from, let's say, for example, okay, let's say, for example, you want a new car so that you can travel and not worry about the car breaking down. Because let's say you have an older car and it breaks down too much and you can't drive anywhere, right? And you don't want to rent the car for whatever, right? But getting a newer car may require having to get a different job or a better job or whatever. And so it's kind of like your end goal is maybe traveling, but it's kind of like, how do you get that to that point of traveling with a new car and you don't have the money and you have an old car right now that won't take you maybe to a better job that might be out of state or something like that. Right? And it's like one thing relies upon another, relies upon another. It's like this hamster wheel. Oh, that's annoying when you have times in life like that. It's annoying. Oh, that's so annoying. I understand. When it's like, you need a job, but you can't, you need a job so you can buy a car, but you need a car so you can get to your job. Oh, that's annoying. That's a hamster wheel, right? Anyway, that requires prayer, a lot of prayer, to open your mind up so you can see a way. When you have times like that, that's what that means. It's like, God, help me. Please help me. Open up my mind so I can see what options are in front of me or what I can do. Or, please bless me with a blessing in my lap. Okay? So, that's what that requires when you're on a hamster wheel like that. But anyway, sometimes it's just a matter of like, okay, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I have to get another job closer to home, or maybe work from home or something like that. That makes X, Y, Z. And I need to save up. Every single week, I need to save up $300 every week needs to go into my car savings, right? So that at the end of 6 months, I have whatever amount of money is what I got, and I'm going to use that as a down payment for the new car. And when I get that new car with low miles or whatever, then I can actually use that to travel or whatever. But that's what I mean when I say you have to really, to eat an elephant one bite at a time, you have to break it down. I mean, you literally have to break it down. Like, don't look at the whole thing and get overwhelmed by seeing the whole big elephant that you have to eat. What do they do for horses? They put blinders on horses, right? Why do they do that when a horse is racing? Because the horse can only see what's in front of them and not here or there, right? And the horse is only looking at what's in front of them, and they're just running as fast as they can, and it keeps them focused. And that's basically what breaking your goals down and eating an elephant one bite at a time, or breaking your goals down very small into monthly, weekly, daily, maybe even hourly, could be even hourly, and that way you get to the ultimate long-term goal. And that works in sales too. Even as far as sales, people know, like, when you have let's say the goal is, making 3 appointments a week, and to make 3 appointments, to make 1 appointment, you have to talk to 10 people to talk, so if you want 3 appointments, that means you got to talk to like 30 people. And if the goal is 30 people that you got to actually talk to sell whatever, right? Okay, then that means every day you got to talk to, or let's say however many days you work, you got to divide that by 30. And that's how many people you have to talk to every single day, present that opportunity or that sales pitch to or whatever, so that you can get your ultimate goal, right? And that's breaking it down. And that is how you ultimately get to your end goal, your end game. But you yourself have to make the decision first. You have to first make the decision yourself that this is something that you want to pursue or you want to do. And understand that you may or may not be making everybody happy, or, you may be disappointing some people. They may not like what you're doing or whatever, I mean, for example, if, you've had issues with your significant other who wants you to stay at home and cook and clean all day long, and that's all he wants, and you want to pursue something else or whatever, maybe your kids are older or whatever, now you can, and it's not going to make him happy, right? And I'm not saying necessarily you have to leave that person, because you don't know, I don't know, whatever, I'm not saying whatever, but you just got to know in your mind, like, this is what you're going to do, and, if he doesn't understand, he's just going to be unhappy. And it may be because he's like, well, I only like your cooking. Okay, well, I'm going to teach this other chef, whatever, how to cook just like I do. Whatever, right? So that you can try to have some sort of agreement. You can come to terms, you can try to make him happy while you're trying to pursue XYZ, singing, dancing, whatever, whatever it is your dream, a career, whatever it is. Okay. It's just that you have to understand that comes with the territory a lot of times with making a decision to doing something. It's like you can't always make everybody happy, It's kind of like I remember for the longest time, after my husband passed, I wanted very much to be near my family, to be near my mother and my father. I really did. But I absolutely could not stand being in Florida. And I tried twice to move back. I couldn't stand being in Florida because of a lot of reasons. One of them was because I got triggered by too many memories of me and my husband. It was we made love everywhere. Everywhere I went, up and down in Florida, me and him, we had such an active life. Because we didn't have kids right away, we did a lot. And I was like, there was nowhere I could go that I felt like me and him did not walk on the ground and not have that memory. And it was so fresh that I remember it feeling completely overwhelmed and triggered. And I would be hit with anxiety all the time. And that's when I moved back, right? And it was like, I wanted to be there because my family was there. And they wanted me there because my kids made them happy too. But, in the end, I had to make the decision to go somewhere, and that's when I decided to come back and stay in Atlanta area, because it was a newer place here for me, that there wasn't a lot of triggers coming up in my face constantly of being reminded of the love of my life passing. And that's very common with widows. That's very common when somebody when they lose a spouse. In the beginning, for a little while, they feel comfortable staying in that comfort zone, and then the comfort zone begins to feel like walls that are coming in on you and will start to suffocate you. And a lot of widows or people who have lost a significant other or whatever, they have to move out of that house because they feel too many reminders of the love that they lost, especially when they're younger, when you're widowed younger in life, and you still have a lot of life left to live. Okay. And so it was like, I knew I wasn't making my family happy. I knew I wasn't making my mom and dad happy because of moving away, but it was like, I couldn't do it. I knew I couldn't do it. I knew it was too hard, and it was, and so I had to accept that and be okay with just traveling and visiting and making sure the boys got down there all the time to visit grandma and grandpa for every vacation and make sure so that they could keep their relationship up and everything, right? Anyway, that is what happens sometimes. And, for me personally, when I ask myself that question, how am I going to feel if I don't do this thing over here? If I don't do this thing over here, or if I don't move, like, leave, Florida or whatever, or if I don't pursue being a makeup artist, which is like something I had always wanted to do, if I don't XYZ, and I remember even feeling that way even with kids, because initially I was kidded out because I had dealt with kids so much growing up, and I was the oldest, and I babysat so many kids and everything, and I was kidded out. I even worked at a daycare center, and I remember telling my husband, like, I don't want kids, I want to, like, work on my career, I wanted to go back to school, I did all that stuff, and he was like, yeah, no kids. And then I remember about 4 years into being married, it was like he started kind of bringing it up a little bit, but I remember feeling like, how am I going to feel if I don't give this man a child? If I don't give this man a child, how am I going to feel? Am I going to feel like, am I going to regret that? And I knew I would. I knew I was going to regret it. Like, but I remember telling him, okay, if we have kids, you got to be like a big player. You got to help a lot, because kids are a lot. Because he was the baby. And I was like, I don't think you understand, because you're the baby, and I don't think you understand how consuming kids are. And I'm going to need you to be, hands-on or whatever. Like, like, this is a big deal or whatever, right? And I remember saying even to him, like, you can't stop me from, doing things that I want to do, like being a makeup artist or whatever, because I always wanted that. So I knew at some point it was like, you're going to have to help. And so he agreed to, of course, because, he wanted kids. And I also felt like, for sure, I felt like it was my job, like who else could do that for him anyway, right? But of course, in the beginning, he didn't want kids. It was like, he kind of agreed. Like, he was like, no, we don't want kids right now. But then when he changed, I did adjust for him because I loved him. That was the other thing. I loved him. And I wanted to do that for him, right? But it was like, I don't want that regret. And that was the main thing. That's kind of what I'm talking about. And that's where I'm at, for sure, where I'm at in my life right now. I'm just definitely in that place of like, I've had to make some, decisions and some big changes and things throughout my life. And in this last couple years, I really had to make some changes that, the decision I made did not make this person happy or that person happy or that person happy. And I'm sorry, but it's like, no, that doesn't fit into what I, expressed to you prior to this arrangement or this, commitment or whatever that we put together. This and this and this is not fitting in and is not aligning with me, and this is not going to work. It's just not going to work. And I love you, but, there's going to be somebody better out there who's going to fit your description of a relationship or of a job or whatever, right? Even when it comes to my business and makeup, like, I have had to twice, I have returned, and let me tell you, I have I think I don't return money back. When people send me a deposit, it's not a deposit, it's a usually it's a travel fee or whatever. And I tell people, if your wedding don't go down or whatever, you're not getting this money back, because I'm holding this date for you, and I've already passed up probably several other opportunities for work because of holding this date for you. So this is a hold fee. I don't give it back. But if I have to give somebody their money back, now I don't tell them this part, but this has always been my rule, and I've only done it twice. If I decided I don't want somebody as a client, as a customer or client of mine, because their energy is bad, like they got bad energy. Like I feel like I'm going to regret taking them on as a client because they're going to be a bridezilla, or they're going to be nasty, or whatever. I can just tell by how they, and I've only seen this twice, really heavy. I've warned a few people. Like, look, you could be a bridezilla from over there, but not with me, because I will leave your face. I will leave you high and dry on your wedding day if you try to talk to me any type of way. I'm not putting up with it. Because you can see because weddings definitely, for sure, put people under a lot of pressure. And either the best comes out or the worst comes out, for sure. Because you're with people, you're with family, it's a lot of pressure, whatever, right? But for the most part, they're nice to me because they know they don't want to be left. Because I've said, if I've had to warn them, I've warned them, and that was okay. But the two people in particular, I sent money back. And it was specifically, they didn't ask for the money back. I didn't have to, but I sent it back. Why? Because I was like, nope, your money comes with bad energy. I literally said that. Two people, two clients, 2 times, texted back. They got a letter that said, I'm returning your money. I'm returning all energy that I have received from you, because I don't want anything with your name on it. Like, I don't want it. Okay. It was like the experience that I had with them, that I saw them, how they treated their family, how they treated even potentially their future husband. With my own eyes, I saw such bad energy. I mean, nasty attitude, that I was like, I don't want to be a part of this. I could tell and I'm talking about the kind of person who, is nasty to waitresses at restaurants, or who is nasty, or thinks they're better than others, or has a kind of a self-entitlement kind of attitude, and it's to the extreme. Like, I'm seeing it with my own eyes, and you can tell they're super picky with themselves, and they'll be super picky even with makeup. And these are people who are actually internally not happy with themselves anyway. And so that's why when you're not happy on the inside, you can't be happy with anybody or anything on the outside. You're not going to be happy with your house, your car, your husband, your family, your kids. You're not going to be happy with anybody because you're not internally happy with yourself. You're not calm enough or whatever. You have some shadow work you got to get done, okay? But I'm not the one to tell you. I'm not here for that or whatever. And I can just see that this person has problems, and I've sent money back. And I was like, nope, I don't want anything to do with it. I changed my mind, and in fact, lose my number, and I blocked them. Because it's like, nope, not dealing with it. I don't even want to be associated with this wedding. And the 2 times that I've had to do that, both times it was relayed back to me that I made the best decision, because everybody who was in connection, that wedding was a hot mess, and everybody got their feelings hurt, and it was horrible. And see, because I've always been so sensitive to people's energy and their stuff, I pick up too much on people's feelings and stuff like that, that I can't do it. I literally cannot do it. And so I also cannot deal with regrets. I can't do it, and even whenever I've tried, every time I've tried, it's literally, I'm in a state of turmoil that whole time that I'm trying to shove something down, and I can't deal with it. It's just not, I just decided, like, it's just, that's not right. I'm not going to go out like that. I'm not going to go out like that. I'm not going to be dishonest. I'm not going to hold back or whatever, my feelings or whatever. I ain't doing it. I'd rather be honest. And the older I get and the more experiences that I've gone through, I'm definitely even more like that, where it's like, nope, I'm not trying to go down with a bunch of regrets and not having tried XYZ, doing this and this and that and that. Even if I fail at this thing or whatever, at least I can live with myself and say, I tried. Okay? No matter how big that goal is. And I do have a couple of very big goals right now. But I'm definitely going for it. And I'm okay, and it's in that journey of going for the goals. It's in that journey of breaking your goals down and doing everything systematically, every single day, and accomplishing small goals along the way, where you gain even more confidence, and where you're living that life and you're feeling a fulfillment and happiness on the inside, because you're going for something that it's something that either you really want to do, or in the end it's going to bring a lot of joy or whatever, right? So anyway, I talked too long this time. I'm trying to keep my videos shorter. Bye.